The entire crypto market right now is opening their eyes to something like this, which is not looking great. So the Gary guy is going against Bittrex. Just 2 weeks back, Bittrex was like, okay, we are leaving the US because we don't have any regulatory clarity. Remember, this guy did the same here with FTX. When they filed bankruptcy, this guy went on suing them. So until there was something bad happening with the FTX issue, with the Terra Luna, with the Celsius, they were sleeping. They were running behind XRP to screw a legit project. So that's the bad news in the market. But remember, it's not just they are suing one exchange. It is more or less that particular individual is going against different assets. And it is not only these assets, right? That's important. SEC kind of went through saying this is a non-exclusive list of tokens that they have sold as securities. And I'm like, okay, that means they're going after another project. When XRP was screwed, we told this. This is not going to end well for crypto as a whole. But what's good, even though we are looking at negative news and narrative, we are looking something like this. And I'm like, okay, that's really a great thought process, which Credible actually has shared. If we look for the factors as the macro and micro, it kind of gives us a thought process like, okay, maybe we are about to ride higher. But then when you actually go into the market, you need to look for short-term, micro, medium, and the macro. And you get a narrative like, okay, I don't know whether that's going to happen. But for XRP, in terms of USD, we are looking for a corrective action. We are here and we would like to see the price coming back to a support and then bouncing off. The same here with Bitcoin. But the major difference in Bitcoin is that when you're on a short term, you are dropping. Remember what we talked yesterday? When we were at 30,200, we were like, okay, we are about to drop. We should test a short term support at least, or go back down to this particular level and then bounce off. So right now we are testing the short term level for sure, but we need to get clarity because right now the RSI shows you it's at a support. It's reaching that support. It still have some room. So that in price action may mean it can come lower. But as you zoom out, things get a little bit more clearer. You know what to expect. You know what to anticipate. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. While we go look at the Bitcoin chart, this is a 3-day chart for Bitcoin, and we notice the fact that we are getting an engulfing candle to the downside. So whenever that usually happens, the odds are you are going to look for a correction, right? So that's a 3-day chart. So on a daily, we're getting the thought process, we are moving down, the volume is moving in red. Now we go on a weekly chart, and that's where things become a little bit more confusing and interesting. Because the fact that we had this level as a previous support, which turned into a resistance, and the price shows you that the market pushed higher. We closed above that on a weekly, which is a positive thing. And right now we are holding above that even with all of these bad news, which itself is a positive thing to think about. So if it's the short-term level which we are testing and bouncing off, this scenario comes into picture. So that is something like you're talking about a $120,000, $140,000 Bitcoin. And it's not like you're looking for 2024, 2025. It's this year. You're already in April. So you don't have a lot of time to anticipate and learn, because the resistance levels after this is higher than what you think. The range which the price may consolidate after next rally would be higher than we think, and it may come sooner than we anticipate for sure. Now, that's the case for Bitcoin. But then you come on looking at Ether, because Ether on the short term actually shows us that, okay, technically speaking, we just got a bearish signal. You usually get an engulfing candle like this and you go down. But we also remember that historically speaking, we have seen something like this, right? A reversal signal, but then we immediately reached the next level of support here. Now that's great, right? It also happens to be a psychological level of support, 1500. Now, where are we? Just above $2,000. So that itself is a psychological level. And if you focus on which is the next level of support, it's at 2000. So that itself is like, okay, we do have a possibility that if we drop, we may actually hit that level and then bounce off. If that is the case, it's going to be really great. But then again, what we have to understand is while we go for the macro, we had this range acting as a support. And after which, while we extend this, we also see that that range became a resistance. So it would be healthy for the price to come back to this range, which is 1,700, and then bounce off. But it will be even more bullish if we hold on to the current levels, because on a weekly chart, it does show you like, okay, we had these levels, which is just below $2,000 acting as a previous resistance, which should turn into current support. So we go back all the way to 2020 and we get the understanding, okay, the market did respect this level as a support and resistance zone. And it also gets clear when you broke that level, you literally broke that level with a massive candle to the upside. So that shows you bulls had to kick the sellers out to move above. Now if we come back this level and bounce, it still is just a trend. It is still trending higher. To get confirmation, go on to a line chart. This is what you're looking at. You came up, you made a bull flag, after which you're trending higher. So last time when you actually got these kind of short-term correction, it was here. So if you happen to see a short-term correction like this, anticipate the next leg up going to 2,500. Because on the monthly, you are still looking at the bullish, or I should say ultra bullish, macro reversal pattern playing out. This is your level of support resistance, and you're right now breaking through that level. It's an Adam and Eve pattern playing out, which gives you a measured move of 80%. So that's for Ether. So most likely the altcoin market is going to do 100% move. Now, we are like, okay, inside that territory, where does XRP stand? Can it actually move higher? Because we just talked about XRP saying, okay, on the short-term narrative, while we look at the pattern, we have a symmetrical triangle pattern. So we need to actually see, do we break to the upside? Can we really break to the upside? Or are we going to go lower? Because when you zoom in on the daily, the issue here is we actually tried to break higher, but the sellers came back in and we are getting a little bit of negative candle, which actually shows like, okay, inside the price action part of this, sellers do have some energy right now. So while we, okay, go on to a 3-day chart, we're like, okay, we still haven't finished this correction yet. So while we look at 3-day chart, that 3-day chart shows clearly that we haven't yet completed an ABC correction. So once we get that, now that's the time. It can be at this point or it can be here. Now it depends on what the market narratives will be, what the market narrative shows you. Remember, as soon as we got the news that the SEC is going against the exchange, claiming a lot of these assets as security, you just notice the fact that Bitcoin started dropping. So news, narratives does matter. But yes, it is true that we were thinking like, okay, most likely we are about to observe a correction, right? And that's happening. But It's not to say that inside the same market, we have assets moving higher. We have assets popping through, hitting the targets, correcting back. So opportunities does exist. Why is that? Because we are still here at $1.3 trillion. Money is moving within the market. We have certain opportunities breaking through. If you remember, we had this, we went through, we hit the short-term target, we are going for the macro target here. Our India is already moving. We posted this about the opportunity and it is right now at that level. It already hit that and is correcting. So if you remember, while we were recording yesterday's video, this just happened. It just went up, it popped, it hit both levels and came back down below the level 1. So people did take profit. So if you understand the fact that, okay, I'm going to put my take profits here, I'm going to put my order here. Now that helps because after that, what happens? The market actually drops. Even though you went higher, it went crazy, to be frank, on that short-term narrative. You came back down. And now the market is showing you a lot of other assets are showing something like that. Audio here is down 14% for the day at 0.37. It is still higher than where it was few days before, right? But you missed the opportunity if you really didn't understand what the targets were. That's why we actually post these on a regular basis. And if you want to have a look at these to understand what the market narrative is looking like, for a lot of these assets which you actually have inside your portfolio, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. As we continue further, we need to keep an eye on dollar, right? We are looking for XRP to dollar, Bitcoin to dollar. So this part is important. As dollar bounced off from this level of support, as we talked, the crypto market slowed down. But if you actually look at this, if we break this moving average, yeah, things would look different. Now we are going inside this range. Now we are range bound. So the market can be slow to that fact, right? Now, keep in mind that if this gets rejected and go back down, that's going to be a bullish thing. So we actually really have to go on a macro stuff to see what this is doing. Because it is at a long-term support resistance level, which does show you like, okay, if we break lower, that's bad for dollar, for sure. But if we bounce back to test the moving average up here, that's going to be 103.4. So the market can do that, which means next week or two is going, if that happens next couple of weeks, is going to be corrective mode for the markets, say especially crypto. Now you can look at the Dow Jones and say like, okay, we are testing this range again and again, but unless we break that pattern, don't go ultra bullish. But once you break that pattern and move above, don't be bearish. Yes, the markets outside the real world is not looking great. 100% agreed. But you go back in this 2020 crash and what happened after that in the markets, the lockdowns, people going bankrupt, people losing jobs, everything. The market actually went up, right? There was a panic. The market sold off quickly. But what happened? After that, it recovered. It went from 18,000 all the way close to 37,000. So it more than doubled. Right? It doesn't really make sense because the real world economy was hammered. But the markets, the financial markets, were going up. Now, you know why that's happening. That's the real money, the economy, the system. That's how money works. So if we say, okay, the economy doesn't look good, economy is about to drop dead with all these new rate hikes and whatever we are observing, we may still be able to see a rally here in the market. So if this breaks to the upside, don't be a naysayer, because on the other aisle of this, we are looking for the macro. We are looking for gold. On the daily, yes, we are slowing down, we are correcting, and all agreed. But as you go on the weekly, as you go on the macro, you really understand that, okay, this definitely looks like a reaccumulation pattern on the Wyckoff structure. And once you just got a spring event here, I would say that does look bullish. Because if you actually deny the fact that, okay, that's Wyckoff, great. Then you go look at patterns. And it does show you like, okay, that's a rounded bottom pattern with a measured move, which actually goes like 20-25%. And 25% move in gold is not small. Imagine gold breaks this level and go up to 2,500. Wow, the market is in panic. Otherwise, you don't see big money entering into a market like this. This is a safe haven asset. This is the hedge against the currency devaluation, debasement of currencies. And when you go back in history, you always see how things have played out. So if you understand the history well, at least the psychology of the market, we don't have to deny the fact that, okay, there is something brewing. And this is something we are watching in the cryptocurrency market as well. We had a pattern where we were accumulating. We had a pattern which was a macro reversal signal. We broke that pattern and then we are moving up. Gold actually shows like it already have went through the wave one structure, which is great. A few of our cryptocurrencies also have done that, which is a great news. Now, when gold is going for wave two, you should look for what's happening with dollar, because all the times before, you didn't actually have a dollar which was weak. You never, in that time horizon with crypto and gold comparison, had a dollar which was going down. So now, while we have that happening in the market, we need to understand like, okay, if that macro structure does play out from this support turning into a resistance, then getting extended like this, we are still looking for something beyond here. How long it's going to take, no one knows. But it's going to be the patience and discipline which is going to take you through. And if on the other side, crypto is actually doing this, wow, that is going to be a huge bounce. Why? Because that's going to be a surprise rally. Because on the other end, yes, there is a huge mistake happening inside the US where they are being kicked off and other nations are taking in all these new money. They are inviting these new technology. The Web3 development is happening in Hong Kong, in UAE. All these countries are welcoming investors, entrepreneurs, everyone into that space. They're giving free zones to work, to develop, to invent. And in US, you see this guy saying 2 years of honor. Honor for what? We really don't really understand it. Because what we have seen in last 2 years is like Terra Luna bursting. People had to suicide. Celsius taking a lot of people's money out. FTX kind of shaking those who kind of barely held on. So this is his legacy, not the honor part. And if he is suggesting that he's having that honor part for working against the US, great for him. But that's not what we are looking for the macro. Because that guy can stay there or get fired. We don't know. But this technology is here to stay because it's not just about the US. While the dollar drops, while the macro changes, crypto assets are going to get more and more money coming in. With all that's happening in the world right now, especially with the inflation, with the rate hikes, people losing their purchasing power, they're desperate to see their money going up. So they may choose gold, which is like, it's just an hedge against the inflation, but still a lot of people consider that as an investment too, because in times like this, it may even act as one, right? So you should actually think about that and use it as a huge opportunity. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you on the next video. Bye for now.